Welcome to part 1 of Living with Reality, the human condition, who we are. If you are listening and watching this tape, I assume that you have already studied ego, instinct, and evolution, and that you have also done your CBC orientation. So why don't we begin with James relaxing us so that we can be in this learning experience in a more relaxed state. Remember where we were at the end of the CBC orientation, where we were changing our relationship to learning. I would like us to be in that frame of mind, of being relaxed, knowing that we're here to help and to nurture. And I'd also like you to keep one more thing in mind, which perhaps you can integrate into the
meditation.
Our meditation, which is that in the typical classroom situation, which we have all experienced, very few of us ever felt that we were there to support the teacher. We always felt that the teacher was there either to teach us, to punish us, to test us, and at best to teach us, right? And this is different because part of becoming oneness, which is the foundation of our program, is to realize that the teacher and the student are one. So I'd like you to visualize yourselves as me, sitting in the front of you. See if you can't get into my consciousness, into my body. Feel that you are here to support me as well as me being here to support you, because we are one, supporting ourselves to learn and to become part of the oneness. And so do everything you can to not judge, but to receive and co-create. Speaking of judgment, we will be talking quite a bit about that when we get to Platform 1, which is the topic of next month's CBC module. But in this module, I'd like to talk about the human condition and just get a brief overview of the way we operate.
Okay, very good. Okay, please make yourself comfortable wherever you are. And this time I'd like you to extend your arms straight out without clenching your hands into fists. And in a moment I'm going to invite you to just let them plop down like a wet dishcloth, like a couple of wet dishcloths. Just plopping down to your lap. And when that happens, let yourself plop down, drop down in relaxation. Okay, plop it on down there. That's it. Close your eyes. And just allow yourself to feel a deepening relaxation throughout your whole body. Become aware of your breathing. With each exhalation, allow yourself to relax ever deeper. A deepening relaxation with each and every breath. Now I'd like you to please turn your palms upward to receive. And open yourself now to be receiving beneficial energies from Source, God, the universe, however you might refer to it, the source of life. And imagine connecting with the highest of which you can conceive, whatever that is for you, if it be God, the infinite, connecting with that. Now allow yourself to receive the beneficial energies flowing down through the crown chakra, the top of the head, into the head and into the body, filling your entire body with what we might call chi, what we might call life force. However you experience that. It might be a feeling throughout your body. Some people hear it as a high ringing tone. Allow yourself to experience a deepening wellness, well-being. relaxedness, openness. Openness to receive what is shared during this time, and openness to transmit, to participate, to give of yourself to this experience, knowing that the more you give of yourself to an experience, the more you do in fact receive. And so with that intention, in maintaining this relaxed state, I'd like to invite you now to open your eyes. Focus on Beth, who will be sharing with you during this coming cycle. You're able to maintain this relaxed state with your eyes open, in a relaxed, attentive state, focusing on Beth during this time.
Thank you, James. I'd like to repeat something that I talked about in our Consciousness Boot Camp orientation, which is that we are all students, that I am the teacher, just like I was the writer of the book, but actually I am the student because I learn with you. As I wrote the book, I was learning. These were not my ideas, they just came to me and came through me. And so I don't want you to hold me as the teacher so much as a transmitter. And someone who hopefully will also stimulate in you a lot of realizations of your own, and that you can share with others as well. In Ego, Instinct, and Evolution, we covered in some depth, especially if you, which you were supposed to, have read that chapter, we talked about the shame of existence, we talked about how the ego develops certain kind of personality characteristics in order to cope with the realities of life, the finiteness of resources, of energy and money and time, and of the material resources that we all encountered when we were born. So I am not going to repeat any of that. I'm going to assume that you are prepared to move on. And this part, the human condition, is a fairly extensive part of our book, but it is not focused so much on change as it is focused on our having an overview of some of the key behaviors that we have developed over the years and that we have developed collectively that are getting in our way. Also in Ego, Instinct, and Evolution, we discussed how the ego blocks us from change. And how the ego blocks us from change is by making everything feel like it's a survival issue. And on an unconscious level, we have learned, as we talked about in Ego, Instinct, and Evolution, that everything started for us as a survival issue because we were infants and we were helpless and we needed to manipulate our universe in order for us to survive. So we develop these patterns which are associated with survival, and these patterns go on and on and on, and they become more and more complexified and elaborated until we become experts in these patterns that started when we were infants. And as I say, if you have not read that section, please do, because it's essential for you to understand the exact nature of the ego's genesis and development in order for you to truly understand everything else. But now we have it. We have the ego. We have the ego that has not yet been twice born, which is what we're aiming for, where we begin as a no and we end up as a yes, and we say yes to change and yes to evolution. And so given the fact that we have these egos, and given the fact that we have these long-standing patterns of behavior, protective mechanisms, ways of manipulating the universe, now we come to what is reality and why is it so hard to live with, and that is chapter 1 of the book. So what I say right here is reality is what we see and what we don't see. It is objective, it is not an illusion. And I want to talk about that just for a moment. There are people who have so rightly seen that we are subject to our perception of reality, that they actually have gone to the extreme that they don't think there is any objective reality. Well, they may be right, but that's not true in my world. If I walk into that wall, whether or not I perceive that I'm walking into that wall with my eyes, whether or not I was expecting it, whether or not I was thinking that I was going to get hurt, regardless of what state of consciousness I'm in, if I somehow walk into that wall, I will be smashed. That's reality. Reality is that when the Mack truck runs you over, no matter how you're thinking and what you're thinking, you will be run over. Now, it is possible that the Mack truck will be off by 1/8 of an inch and the tires won't get you, and then you can say, well, that's a miracle. It's because I was thinking something, something, something. Well, wonderful. That may be true, but the fact is, if the tires roll over you, there will be an imprint. So that's what I'm talking about as this is reality. You know, there's an old philosophical question which was raised many, many centuries ago. If a tree falls in the wilderness and nobody hears it fall, has it in fact fallen? I always wondered why anybody would waste any time on that question. The ant that has been crushed by that fallen tree knows that that tree fell. The tree knows that it fell. We are in a universe of awareness and self-awareness, and that tree has fallen. There will be reverberations in the earth because of the impact of that tree falling. And that's what I'm talking about as reality. It is objective, it is an illusion. Now, that does not mean that our perception is not a critical component. Of course it is. For example, if I am colorblind, I'm going to say that's green and you're going to say it's blue. Now, if everybody in the world were colorblind, it would be considered green. But since everybody in the world is not, quote, colorblind, everybody else says it's blue, which makes me wrong, which makes me colorblind. So isn't that interesting? It's not only perception, but it's the collective perception that determines what the perception of reality is. Nevertheless, there is a spectrum of vibrational frequencies that create that color. Now, how do we know this? Because we've been dumping sewage in the ocean for a long time, and we've pretended that it wasn't there because we couldn't see it. But we have found it showing up in the stomachs of our fish. So I guess it was real after all. Now, you don't have to agree with me, but that's okay. But this is the premise, is that there is an objective reality. But our perception is equally critical. Now, another point, which is incredibly important, is that there are objective realities that we cannot in any way perceive. People who say there is no spiritual dimension, for instance, say, prove it to me. Prove it to me. I'm looking at them thinking, prove it's not there to me, because I live in it every day. If you feel vibrational energies, for example, in your body, as we do when we do Life Force or we channel in divine energies, that is reality. I perceive it, I feel it, I know it's there. So if I have a stomach ache, I know my stomach hurts. You can be looking at me and say, you don't have a stomach ache. Prove to me that you have a stomach ache. You know, I remember years ago when the medical profession was even less evolved than it is today. And I don't mean that in a snide way. I mean that we're all learning that there were many diseases that were not on the radar of medicine. And that therefore people thought, you're hysterical, or this is emotional, or that's psychological. And they've only recently discovered that there is a physiological basis for ulcers. I always thought my mother had ulcers because she's a nervous wreck. She is a nervous wreck, but she also had ulcers. Now, it is probable that her anxiety made her more susceptible to any kind of thing happening to her. But now we see that there's another basis for it. Now, why I mention this is that people will not dispute that. But when it comes to the unseen realities of the spiritual realm, people will still argue, well, I don't see it, and therefore it's not true. Well, you have never seen an atom either, have you? And are you going to argue that it doesn't exist? So I guess you're either going to have to tune into these vibrational energies or ask some people and believe that there are normal, sane human beings who actually experience this. So part of the problem in figuring out what reality is that our perceptions are limited individually and collectively, and we cannot see beyond what we can see. We cannot see all the colors in the spectrum. We do not hear everything that a dog hears. And yet we continue to believe that we know what reality is. Why is it that what's in their perception is not as real as what is in our perception? So that is a real problem, and when we collectively agree that something is true, then it becomes even more toxic because it takes up a life of its own. For example, there was at one time a generally accepted belief that blacks were stupid. I mean, didn't we know that? Didn't they act stupid? Right? That was a collective belief held by Caucasians. There's another collective belief that Caucasians can't dance, but I'm not going to get into that. But you understand what I'm saying? Jews are stingy. I mean, where did we get these ideas from? Yet they take on a life of their own. And so, what is reality? It's not easy. And we have very finite, built-in physical capacities. But we have been overcoming those finite physical capacities by developing machinery that can go beyond. So now we can observe the spectrum of color. Even if we can't see it, we can observe it because we have tools that will allow us to see it. And we have microscopes, and we have telescopes. There's so much more in the universe than we ever thought was there, because now we have the tools, and it's like, oh yeah, but it was there all along. And so it is. There's so much more to the universe than we see. And those of us who are intuitive or psychic have a small edge over those who aren't, in that we can see some things or feel some things. And we can have two very intuitive people sitting together and saying, well, I'm getting this, well, I'm getting that, well, I'm getting this, well, I'm getting that. Well, we're both probably right. But we're seeing or perceiving or experiencing different aspects of what is real. So even when we develop tools like microscopes and telescopes and all kinds of other tools to measure reality and to see it, even those tools are limited. Isn't it true that when we had telescopes, they didn't have the strength of the telescopes we have today? And so every day our perception of reality changes. And isn't that wonderful? That's what's so exciting. But there's another block to our seeing reality. And all of this, by the way, is still under number one. Our perceptions are limited individually and collectively to what we can see. Because I've been talking about objective reasons we can't see. Now I'm going to be talking about our willingness to see. What do we want to know? And what don't we want to know? If we are the child in a dysfunctional family, we see it. We know it. We can see our parents struggling. We feel it, even if we don't have that cognitive capacity. But our parents may be completely blind to what's going on right in our family because they don't want to see, because they don't want to feel guilty, because they want to think they were better parents than their parents, for whatever reason, because they don't want to have to break up, because they don't want to have to go into therapy and look at themselves. What are we willing to question becomes critical to what we are willing to see. If we don't want to question something, we will not see it. If we live in a society that is hierarchical, and we are at the top of the hierarchy, we may not want to question hierarchy. But if we're at the bottom, we may be more motivated. Is it because the people at the bottom are better people or more noble than the people at the top? Think about a corporation where you have the file clerk who's really annoyed because the corporation is so mismanaged, and it's very obvious when you're at the bottom about all the insanity that's going on the top. It's like, oh. Now, how come the board of directors doesn't notice this, that there are problems in the corporation? They have a different interest. It's not that file clerks are better people than rich people, that poor people are better than rich people, or that black people are better than white people. Even that women are better than men. It's just, what are we willing to see? Because how much are we threatened by the questions? You bring people into a therapeutic setting and you question everybody and everything and every reaction that everybody's having, and sure enough, you will hit something that every person in that family doesn't want to see, which is their own reaction and their own self-interest, their own ego-based reactions and self-interest. Now, again, coming back to the spiritual dimension, who is open-minded enough to live in a world of objective reality of science and at the same time see the unknown in the spiritual realms? We have models for that. Einstein is a model for that. And there are more and more scientists today who are actually opening up. And you know, the more of them open up the question, the more of them will be looking for tools to measure these spiritual dimensions. I don't know if that'll be a good thing or a bad thing, but it will be a new thing. And it's already happening. Now, another problem we have, still in the same number one, of our perceptions are limited, individually and collective, to what we can see. The partialness of our perspective. You know, we have that old story about the elephant. You know, I'm holding we're all blind, right? I'm holding the leg, you're holding the tail, you know, I got the trunk and I've got the ear. And what is describe the elephant? Well, we all have a piece of the elephant that we're holding. I think it's a marvelous story because we are always so certain of our perceptions. And maybe they're right, but maybe they're not complete. I don't have the big picture. And yet we may be threatened by one another's pictures. Maybe I'm just threatened that you're coming up with something different from mine because I feel stupid if you say that the elephant has a big flappy thing and I'm feeling a leg. And I'm thinking, God, what's wrong with me? This doesn't feel flappy and soft. Well, there must be something wrong with you then. Our egos are very attached to our perspective. If I am a welfare recipient, I'm reading straight from the book, if I am a welfare recipient, a welfare worker, or a taxpayer, I am likely to have a different perspective on welfare. Fortunately, I have been all of those. Well, I haven't actually been a welfare worker, but I can have compassion for the welfare worker. The more moccasins we walk in, the more mind-blown we are about reality. And it becomes so much more complex than our little egos want them to be, where we can stay in a safe world where our perceptions are real. And this is so. Okay, that's number one block to seeing what reality is. Number two, we each exist in our own subjective world. Now, what I mean by that is that it's absolutely astonishing how little attention we pay to objective reality anyway. As far as I'm concerned, the weather is fine. The fact that there may be a tornado 3 states away is really not impacting my day. Now, I may watch it on TV and say, oh my God, those poor people, they have a tornado. But my day is still fine because my feelings are based on my senses. 5, 6, however, 7 senses you have. They're still based on my subjective feeling. And so we are really, really geared, because we are sentient beings, meaning we are feeling, especially on the physical plane, but not just on the physical plane. We are geared to reality is whatever I feel. And now, that is terrible. That was wonderful. That's gorgeous. Just listen to all the things that we say every day. Me too. That's because to me, that is gorgeous. To me, but I don't say to me. Even if I say it, I don't mean it. And it's very hard to get away from that because we are in this feeling universe and we do feel. And so it may be a gorgeous day, but if I have an ice pick going through my nose, I'm not going to feel that good. And that's just the way it is. And so we are very, very busy feeling, feeling, feeling. We're designed this way. This is not our fault. We have to be this way in order to function. I've got to know whether I've just put my foot into a trap, because I can't go around dragging a trap after me forever. So I need pain to tell me my foot's in the trap, to tell me my life is in a trap, my mind is in a trap. I need pain to give me that awareness. And we're going to get into fear and pain later when we get to chapter 2. But when I'm overwhelmed by that, I so become focused on that pain that I don't even think straight anymore. I can't. I'm just desperate. So everybody is into this, and everybody is feeling, and it's not just on a physical plane. We're having emotional experiences at the same time as we're having physical experiences. So let's say I've walked into that wall, which I mentioned earlier. Now, I've done this. I walked into a glass door. Have anyone else ever done something this dumb, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so now what am I feeling when I walk into that glass door? I'm feeling my nose is smashed. But more than that, I'm feeling embarrassed. Like, oh my God, what a fool. Now, have you ever heard, okay, I got a good one for you. Have you ever been in the act of making love and suddenly you get a cramp or something happens to you physically? Do you want to admit it? Don't you want to override the pain and hope and pray that it's over in the next 10 seconds, that you don't have to tell your partner that this is going on? Because instead of dealing with the reality that you're having a cramp, you're dealing with the reality that you're feeling embarrassed about having a cramp, right? So this is what I mean about living in a subjective world. Think about this blown up, that we're all running around having physical feelings and emotions that get very complicated. And by the time we get really deep into these emotions, we are so far from reality that we can't do anything about it. I have seen endless numbers of people wearing the most uncomfortable clothes and trying desperately to convince themselves that they're comfortable. They're not dealing with reality. And then they say, I don't know why my back is hurting. Of course, you've been wearing high heels for 5 years. Or isn't that odd that I have a bunion? Or, gosh, these pants are tight because you've been eating nonstop for 3 days. What is it that, in these moments we're so embarrassed, or we're so attached, or we're so something attached to some emotional experience? I can't stop myself from eating. I'm embarrassed about the fact that I'm eating. I'm going to try to pretend I'm eating. I'm going to change. I'm going to talk about it. It's my clothes. But this shrank in the dryer, obviously. Or I'm going to continue to wear these pants because I can't deal with the reality that I have been eating compulsively. I have gained 10 pounds, and I really ought to either lose 10 pounds or get bigger clothes. But I can't deal with that because I'm so ashamed of the fact that I'm fat. Think about our world being run by billions of people who are busily trying to deal with their emotions while our climate changes right in front of our eyes. or that our economy crashes right in front of our eyes. But we can't deal with it. Well, I think one of my favorite examples, and this example comes up frequently, I think, in this book, is there's a problem with the plumbing, and I want my husband to fix it, because isn't that what men are for? And my husband wants to fix it because he doesn't feel like he's making enough money this year, so he has to feel like a man somewhere. And the two of us stand there watching the plumbing problem, waiting for him to fix it. And then we see him incapable of fixing it, let's say, and getting more and more aggravated and telling me that the reason he hasn't gotten to it is because he had something way more important to do. And I'm getting aggravated, but I'm afraid to pick up the phone and call the plumber because he's going to get upset if I call the plumber and question his ego. So I'll sit there passively and I'll say, he didn't let me call the plumber. Because my hand was tied to the wall and I couldn't reach the phone. He didn't let me. Who's dealing with reality? Is anybody on board? Lots of feelings, lots of drama. In the book, I go into much greater detail that helps you see piece by piece by piece how we actually do this and how ludicrous it is. But I'm going to move forward because I want to say something else about this section. If we confuse our feelings with reality, which we do, we may miss reality altogether. And what we will do instead is focus on our feelings and changing our feelings. Please read this section thoroughly. Number 3, about how our perception of reality is skewed, is that our egos have designed behaviors to cope with our subjective experience. Let's say we feel threatened, like we're never going to have enough, or we feel shame that we're stupid, or whatever it is. Now, let's take that example. I feel stupid. How does my ego cope with that? Well, let's say that my ego copes with feeling stupid by trying to look smart. So I go into the situation trying to look smart. Let's go back to the plumbing. Let's say I'm the woman now, and my husband can't fix the plumbing. Well, I've been waiting for this moment because I want to look smart, because he makes more money than I do, and he holds it over me, and he makes me feel stupid. So now I'm going to feel smart, and I'm going to fix this myself, or I'm going to figure it out myself. Anybody ever can you identify with that feeling of wanting desperately to prove that you know something, whether or not you know it, or you're going to figure it out to prove that someone else is stupid? Meanwhile, the floor is getting very moldy. Now that may seem like a silly example to you, because you can sit there and say, I would never do that. I know better than that. I'll call a plumber. But supposing the last time you called the plumber came and didn't fix it and overcharged you. Now what are you going to do? Because you have a negative association that you felt like a fool when the plumber came and did this to you. So are you going to call a plumber? Or no, you're going to try to fix it yourself, because you never want to go through an experience like that again of feeling embarrassed or helpless with some man, probably, who made you feel even more stupid because not only couldn't you fix the plumbing, but he took advantage of you. How many of us are afraid of people who come to help us because we're afraid they're going to take advantage of us and make us feel stupid? So we just let it go. and just let it go or try to fix it ourselves. And meanwhile, the floor is really moldy. So we have designed behaviors to cope with our subjective experience, and usually it's a quick fix. Now, supposing I feel lonely, and my ego tells me that what's going to solve the problem is some man is going to hold me, and I'm going to feel happy, and I'm not going to feel lonely anymore. Well, I'm on the internet looking for some dude, right? In the moment I feel high, I put in my profile, I write 20 guys, I'm feeling like I'm hot. How long does that feeling last? What about 20 seconds afterwards? Just like after we've eaten sugar, which is one of our best quick fixes to our subjective experiences. And there we are, and we're saying, oh my God, nobody's going to write back. Now I'm feeling twice as lonely. I'm not saying you shouldn't go on the internet. I'm saying that this is a fix. We go for the fix of the subjective feeling around the reality that we're alone. Maybe what we really need is therapy to find out what in us is blocking us from being in a relationship. But that's, oh no, that's no good. That's a long-term fix. And maybe even then it won't work. I'm not saying, hey, get therapy and you're going to find a guy or a woman or whatever. But what I'm saying is that we have a lot of patterns to get short-term fixes. And food is one of the best examples. And I'm going to talk about addictions in our next video. Now, trying to fix our feelings can have long-term consequences. Let's say, God forbid, somebody does answer our internet ad. Let's say we put something in that ad that is not exactly truthful. Or maybe we hid something that we don't want them to know because we want that. Well, what happens when the guy shows up at the door and we're really 5'2" and not really 5'10"? And we really weigh 170 pounds and not 110. Just giving a silly example, right? But not such a silly example. People do that. Or the picture we put up was from 10 years ago. What's going to happen? But what's worse is if we do get involved with somebody because we're desperate and lonely, because we're waiting for that fix in that moment, then we have to maintain that relationship. Supposing the guy is a serial killer and an axe murderer on the emotional plane in one, what are we going to do? We may have to give him up. Well, we can't do that because this is a short-term fix. Now we're married and have 3 children. Now, you think I'm joking? I am exaggerating when I say the guy's a serial killer. He's just another version of us, you know, another flawed human being. But how much do we go after some glamour moment that we are going to, okay, we're going to go out on that date and we're going, I don't know why I'm picking on dating today, but it's just what's coming to me, so I will. It's not in the book, so you're going to read other things in there. But okay, so let's say we go out there and we get all dressed up, and we make ourselves up, and we dye our hair and all of that stuff. And then what happens the next morning when our makeup is all scrunched? That's why I don't wear makeup. People think I'm noble, but the truth is that I don't want to have to look in the mirror in the morning and think that this guy that I've tried to seduce, you know, is going to see me like this. And to me, that's even more pathetic. What am I going to do? Get up at 5 to put my makeup on? Some do. I know it. And then what's worse is, what do we have to do to make ourselves feel good is that we have to make the guy look like he's really hot. Because otherwise we're going to be embarrassed because, you know, well, I'm such a bad fisherwoman that I got a minnow. You know what I mean? So he's this and he's that and he's the other thing, and then of course he isn't any of those things because he's like me. You know, he's really 5'2" and weighs 170 pounds and, you know, is a minnow because he's a human. Well, then I'm pissed. And there's no chance for the relationship because I've been disappointed. He has disappointed me. He's probably hiding what his real income is. Or what happens that first time in bed when you have to take your clothes off, God forbid? Do you understand what I'm saying? These things, these short-term fixes, we create little fantasies and illusions that this is really going to fix something. We haven't dealt with the reality. The reality is we're disconnected. And I'm going to get to that. And what's really bad is if we have opposing feeling states that require opposite fixes. Supposing I'm anxious and I don't feel good and I'm desperate for food and I want to eat. But supposing I'm desperate to look thin. My God, which fix is going to come in first? Binge or purge? Which do I choose? 4 is reality gets in the way of our wants, desires, and plans. Oh my, ain't that the truth? I feel uncomfortable. I'm afraid of pain. The ego, the poor little ego, is trying to fix all this, right? I'm going to save you from pain, Beth. I'm going to make you a star. Or I'm going to save you from pain, Beth, and I'm going to find you a guy. Or I'm going to save you from pain, Beth. I'm going to keep you in the house so that you'll never have to deal with another human being. My ego finds some way to deal with my pain. Because I'm always being driven by the need to alter my feeling state. This is what I want you to really get from this. If we are constantly feeling pain and fear, which we are, even if it's all covered up, and we are acutely aware of them, which we are, because we are sentient beings, and our egos are always given the job of making us feel good. I feel good. You make me feel so good. That drink made me feel so relaxed. All these things that we do to make us feel a certain way are designed to alter our feelings. They are not designed to deal with reality. You know, I live in a society, let's say, where I'm surrounded by garbage. So I build a fence that's this high. So I don't see the garbage, I just see the treetop. We've all done it, haven't we? I'm going to see the thing that's going to make me feel good. And I'm going to ignore the rest. Wouldn't it be better, instead of putting our energy and our attention into building the fence that's going to cover up what we don't want to see, wouldn't it be better to put that same time and energy into cleaning up the garbage? But no, that would mean we'd have to deal with reality. That would mean we'd have to see reality. I don't want to see reality. I want to relax. I don't want to have to change the world. I want to enjoy my life. I just want to have peace. Yep. The armies are marching in to take over the town, and we're sitting there watching TV. What was it, Nero, who was playing the violin when Rome burned? That's the way we are when we are being driven by our feelings. We are trying to change our feeling state. So, what do we do when Rome burns? Put on our headphones and dance. Instead of going out there with the fire brigade, because that takes effort. And that's uncomfortable. And I might get burnt, and it's going to pull me out of my normal ways of behaving. And I'm going to have to confront myself, and God forbid I'm going to be uncomfortable. I can't have that. I told my ego when I was born, it's your job. Fix me. Make me feel better. Now. Well, so you may be thinking what I wrote here is also, what are we going to do about this? Okay, if we think back on ego, instinct, and evolution, we remember the ego twice born. Now, are you feeling guilty that you didn't read it? Go back and read it. And watch the video. This is what we can do, support evolution. We can realize the price we pay for our foolishness. Let's face it. Let's face how we have over and over and over and over and over tried to make ourselves feel better, and think of all the ways that we have hurt ourselves. We have denied problems that our children have had. We have denied health issues that we've had. We've tried to cover them up. We have used substances like alcohol and drugs. We have taken pills when we should have taken a walk. We have tried to rise to the top of an organization that's rotten instead of trying to fix the organization for everyone. We need to stop associating our well-being with our short-term needs and our short-term goals. But I want this. But I love him. Right? I had to have it. I had to buy that. I needed another pair of shoes. And he needed to buy them for me. We are normal human beings. We're not going to change that. But we can start shifting our focus. We need to start focusing on not altering our feelings, but on facing reality. Chapter 2, the human condition, the pain and fear that drive us. Those people who say that pain is not real are not living in my body. That's all I can say. I say pain is real. Now, it is possible that if you block all your nerves, you will have no pain. But that doesn't mean that the damage that's being done to your body isn't real. You know, when you've got that ice pick in your head, you probably should pay attention. There is pain. It is real. We all have it. When we were infants, we were colicky, or we had a burp, or our diapers were wet. We felt pain or discomfort. We're hungry. It hurts. That's not a joke. There may be some people who can rise above pain. Great. More power to you. I don't care. The rest of us are still here. And we endure emotional pain. There's always loss. Everything changes. Every time you have something you really want, you watch it go right in front of your eyes. You love your haircut and your hair grows. I mean, you know, there's just nothing. Nothing changes. It's a gorgeous day, and then you love your property and the beetle comes and all your trees die. Yeah. And worst of all, of course, is that you lose love. Because why? Because people either get fed up with you, or you get fed up with them, or you wake up and realize that it wasn't there, it wasn't real to start with, or people age and they die, and you're not, or they get Alzheimer's and they're not even there anymore. We lose love. We can't control anything. We are always going to experience pain. Physical pain, emotional pain. How did the Native Americans feel when the Spaniards came, and the British came, and the French and the Dutch? They had a life. It was gone. They couldn't stop it. When we were in the cave, it was no better. something was going to happen. Then your teeth fall out. What can I say? But what we can change is needless pain. And that is what I'm going to focus on in the Living with Reality program and in the, the book, the program that we work, and in Consciousness Bootcamp. How do we eliminate the pain that we create by our egos constantly badgering us, by that negative thinking, which does hurt us? I'm not saying that that doesn't hurt us. We can eliminate that needless pain. And we can eliminate the needless pain that we create by trying to alter our feelings instead of dealing with reality. If we had done something about the pollution of our planet 50 years ago, 100 years ago, we would not have whatever part of climate change is being caused by humans. We would not have the toxicity in the ocean. We wouldn't have those things because we would have taken care of reality then instead of saying, I don't want to deal with that. I think I want to go on vacation to my summer home in Vermont and leave my workers in the polluted city breathing in those fumes. That's reality. If we had paid more attention to the needs of the people around the globe long ago, they would not hate the West as much. And they would have more money to buy our goods. Just an example. The other thing that's real about reality is fear. Because we have a fear of pain. I mean, that is what fear is, isn't it? It's like something's going to hurt. My fear of loss is the fear of the pain of the loss, because going back to our first chapter, we're sentient beings. We're in a subjective universe. Oh yeah, I may feel sorry that you die for some abstract reason, but the real reason that I feel sorry you die is because of how it's going to impact me. Even if the way it impacts me is that I'm going to feel sorry for your wife, or, oh God, I might have to take care of your children, or, ooh, who's going to clean my house now? So we're always afraid of some pain that's going to occur to us. Now, we humans have been busy trying to eliminate pain and fear, haven't we? Every pill, every medical procedure. I'm not saying these are bad things. Every insurance policy, Social Security, workers' compensation, unemployment insurance, family, accumulated wealth, bank accounts, stocks, savings. We are going to solve the fear problem once and for all. Well, we've seen how well that works, haven't we? It's been another big illusion. Now, I want to say that what we've done has been very productive. We have made strides in understanding and medicine and so on in order to deal with pain and fear, and there's nothing wrong with that, but let's not pretend that this is really going to eliminate pain and fear. Every fix we have creates more problems. Every super antibiotic creates a super bug. It's grist for evolution. It seems like every time we fix a problem, we have a bigger problem. I love this. I don't want to have to walk. There's no public transportation around because I have to have a vehicle. And that's the solution. I remember when I first got a car, I was almost 30, because I grew up in New York City. Who had a car? There was no place to park. And man, it was scary. It's cold, it's dark. I had to walk 5 blocks, 6 blocks. Danger, danger, danger from the subway to my house. I didn't like it. And now I have a car. Fantastic. But now the car needs service. And the car is going to break down. And there's somebody who's going to try to kill me on the freeway. And I have to be awake when I'm driving. And that means that I have to be actually more alert, more aware. At least I used to give my 15 cents, believe it or not, to get on the subway. and somebody else would drive. Now, I would be molested on the subway and someone would step on my foot, but at least I could sit there and zone out. But now I have to be aware, way more aware, where everything we buy and do that we're using in order to eliminate the discomfort of life is going to have a price to it. We have to take care of it. Now we have to maneuver it. Now I have to be awake. I cannot sit and sleep in my car when it drives me to work. Fortunately, I don't drive to work, but I used to. Now I have to leave just as early, but now there's no relaxation. And I'm also really in jeopardy because the guy next to me on the freeway is also asleep. And the person in front of me is driving a clunker because he's not well paid and is going to have an accident, and oh my God, and so on and so on. And so now I'm even more dependent on other people. What have I solved? Yes, the day that I bought my own washing machine, I was 40 years old. I thought, oh my God, I had died and gone to heaven. And don't misunderstand, I'm not giving back my car or my washing machine. I'm just saying it doesn't take away fear and pain. Because now my washing machine is not working right. And I have to pay for it. And I have to pay for the electricity. Now I have to buy a home warranty. I remember the good old days. I lived in an apartment. I never worried about anything. I had nothing. It was uncomfortable, but I didn't have to worry about anything. Now I have expanded my fears. Now I need insurance policies on the things that I have bought to help me to feel more comfortable. But then I need some insurance for my income to keep the maintenance of the house that I bought to make myself feel more comfortable. And then the stock market crashes. And all the things that I had, I don't have. And all the insurance that I had, I don't. And what about, and they're even talking about taking money from Social Security. Have we eliminated fear? Or have we just transferred it to something else? That's the problem. So what we have done, and it is not a bad thing, is we have tried to create individual and collective solutions to our fear and to our pain. And to an extent, there have been breakthroughs. When I was a little girl, there was no Novocaine when you went to the dentist, and they just ground and ground, and you sat there and thought you would die. Now they have Novocaine. Now you have to sit there through the needle. But I'm not going to. I'd still rather take the Novocaine. So I am not saying that some of our pain has not been relieved, but the truth is we're still aging. We are still having problems. Many of the medical things that we've done actually turned out to have some downsides that we weren't aware of. And we have to pay for all of this, which means we have to work and work and work and work to pay for all the things that we're getting in order so that we don't have pain. So my back is killing me, my head hurts, I'm working longer and longer in life, and I'm doing all of this so I don't have so much pain, and so I don't have so much fear. And I can still be outsourced. Or some young Turk can come along and take my job. If the job exists. This is it. This is reality. And we haven't wanted to face it, have we? We've always thought that something was going to solve it. If I marry you, I will never again have to worry about. If I have children, I'll never be alone. Now, isn't that the biggest myth of them all? We have to have a different approach to fear and pain. First of all, we have to accept that it's real. And then we need to stop creating needless fear and pain. And we will do that. But first we have to relax into the reality that it is with us and that there's nothing wrong. Because that's the way life is designed. And there are some people who actually believe that if they could shift their consciousness, all of this would go away. But I don't know why they think so. And in fact, these people have aged. And no matter what they think, they are still getting old. I don't have to be forever young. I have to relax into having pain and fear. And I need to find a different way of dealing with it. And one of the best ways that I know to deal with fear and pain is to connect. You know, there was a time when we looked to our extended families to help us out when we were in a jam. And now this is my generation, what did our parents and grandparents do during the Depression? They stuck together, hating each other, I might say, or not hating, but they had each other. That was so oppressive, though, that we all went out and we thought, if I could just pay for it, then I would not have to deal with people anymore. If I were rich enough, I could hire people to take care of all my needs. And then I wouldn't be dependent on other people loving me or being good people or showing up, because I could pay somebody. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We have been trying to use cash. Well, one of the glories of economic instability is that we're being forced more and more to go back to people. But we can't go back to the way we were with one another. If it were that great, we wouldn't have tried to use cash instead. If the extended families were so wonderful, we wouldn't be breaking them up by moving to California or doing whatever we do in order to have our own life. It wasn't great. What we need to do is learn how to be family, how to support one another, how to be different with one another, so that our relationships are truly nurturing, and where the safety comes from our connection to one another. Sometimes we can't bail each other out. Maybe I can't fix your physical pain, and maybe I can't even put food in your refrigerator. But maybe I have a room in my house that you can stay. Maybe I have a place in my heart where you can come and get comfort. Maybe you have that for me. We can't have that in a competitive world. We can't have that in a world where we don't know how to relate. So what are we going to do about pain and fear? We're going to find a new way. And it's going to be built on relationships. In the next segment, I'm going to talk about the fear and pain of disconnection. But for now, I'd like you to just sit for a moment with what I've said. Read the material. If something didn't make sense to you when I spoke it, it'll make sense to you when you read it. Do the exercises. Answer the questions that are through this book. Admit the truth, which is we are constantly trying to change the way we feel. We are driven by fear and pain. We are driven by anxiety. And we're always trying to fix it. And we fix it in ways that don't work. I believe that I'm going to feel better about myself by making you look small. That is a short-term fix. I believe that I will overcome that feeling of powerlessness by yelling so that I feel powerful. Short-term fix. Long-term hangover. There is no love when we try to alter our feelings by fooling ourselves, by dominating one another, by hurting anybody. James?
Yeah. Okay, I'd like to invite everybody to just take a moment to take a deep breath once again. And just to be in a state of relaxedness and having received and absorbed so much during this time. And knowing that you carry this within you. Whether you remember everything or not, you carry this knowledge, this awareness within you. And very soon I'm going to invite you to open your eyes and be fully grounded in your physical body. So I'm going to count from 1 to 5. When I get to 5, I'll invite you to open your eyes, and you bring with you full awareness into the here and the now, fully grounded in your body. Number 1, now send your awareness down to your toes and your fingers, wherever your circulation. Number 2, now wiggle your toes and wiggle your fingers and affirm that you're fully grounded in your physical body. Number 3, now take a deep breath, feeling more and more wide awake and alert, having generated a momentum into your life that grows ever stronger from this time forward as you work with these thoughts, these awarenesses, these realizations for your path of growth and unfoldment. Number 4, now take another deep breath, feeling more and more wide awake. And now coming to number 5, open your eyes, feeling wide awake, refreshed, alert.
Let us be grateful for the learning that we have received. And the learning that we have integrated into our being. Let us transform now. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was great.